The MAC Conference releases its full conference schedule for the 2014-2015 basketball season. Joining us today on 1045theteam.com is Siena Saints men's basketball broadcaster Tom Huerter. We're going to break down the schedule. Tom, I want to ask you this first, though. The non-conference schedule was already out. Yesterday, the conference schedule comes out. Is this schedule now complete for Siena?
As far as I know, yes, it is.
So no Thanksgiving tournament, no Old Spice Classic this year as in years past?
Unfortunately for me, no tropical trips. No, I believe they were working on some tournaments, but I don't think it worked out for this year. So maybe next year. But with the 29 games, I think they're all set.
So Siena will open play November 14th at UMass. They will open up MAC play December 5th at home against Quinnipiac. Now that the schedule is complete, Tom, what's kind of your first impression? What stands out?
Well, the one thing that stands out is there's no major team that I think the casual fan can look at and say, oh, Siena's playing, Purdue, or oh, Siena's playing, Stanford. But it's still a very competitive schedule for what really is still a very young team. I mean, Rob Poole will be a senior, Evan Himes will be seniors. They'll lead the team with Emos Silas also as a senior. But, this is still a young team that had a great end of their prior season, but it's still predominantly a young team with a lot of young players, so it's going to be a very competitive schedule for them.
What's your thought about the conference as a whole? Obviously, last year the MAC adds in Quinnipiac, adds in Monmouth. What's the conference look like overall to you?
I think it's going to be a little bit stronger. I think there's a couple teams to me that stand out that will take a major hit because of losses. That's on the Buffalo swing. I think Canisius will take a major hit with losing the Barron kids, so they may not be at the upper echelon of the conference this year, or at least expected to be. Niagara, with Joe Mahalik leaving the prior year to Hofstra, they're still kind of reeling, so they're not as strong as they've been in years past. But with Manhattan, Iona, they're going to be very, very strong, and hopefully Siena should be in the top third of the league this year.
Switching out of the MAC, Siena will play UAlbany in the perennial rivalry game. That'll be December 13th. Now, they used to play that game at the beginning of the year. Why move it back a couple of weeks?
I think both teams are just, finding scheduling difficulties. Both teams are at the mid-major level, so sometimes they're kind of at the mercy of their opponents and when they can schedule games. Siena may be a little bit more restrictive just because they have to rely upon the Times Union Center to get their games in. UAlbany does play on campus, but both those programs are trying to schedule up in their non-conference games, and you're kind of at the mercy of some of those programs. And I think it fits in well because that's kind of the beginning of the high school schedule. So December is really when the basketball season locally, I think, really starts to kick in. Nationally, for the college level, it starts in November. People get excited with the Maui Classics and the Old Spice Classics, those type of tournaments. But that game, December 13th, I think should still have a tremendous turnout. It's a great game for the local area and a great way for both programs to kind of, show off their teams.
And let's not forget, it should just be a great game. Siena's coming off the CBI title, which we'll get into in a minute. UAlbany's coming off back-to-back NCAA tournaments, so that's a marquee game now locally.
Yeah, there's no question. Both teams are just raising their level of play. I think they've both done a great job recruiting-wise. Will Brown, such an experienced coach over at UAlbany, gets his team to just play so competitive, so tough. They had a great late-season run, winning the America East. And Jimmy Patsos has done a great job in just 1 year at Siena. He's really instilled so much life into not only the program and the team, but also the local area, just recognizing good basketball. So I think that game, after what both teams did last season, should be a bigger game, hopefully a better turnout this year.
I think initially last season when it came out that Siena was going to play in the CBI, several people kind of rolled their eyes at it. Oh, this is the third tournament, just something else at the end of the year. But this area really got behind Siena, and the Saints were really into it. You were at every game last year. What did the CBI do for the program and for the area?
Well, I think it was a great opportunity to play some very good teams. You play Penn State at home. You play, Fresno State on the road and at home twice. I just think those are named programs that you're now allowing your student athletes to compete against. And then, for that individual season and team, you're talking about a very young team that started a lot of freshmen that, for the most part, those kids didn't really know how to win, but then down the stretch, they figured out how to win, which was great, which should bode well for this season. And I think the CBI allowed Siena to kind of reconnect with their students. And, it's so hard nowadays as college programs, they're trying to get their students to the games. There's so many distractions. There's, students have a lot of studying to do, of course, and there's other activities going on. College basketball has become a great venue for maybe alumni and, community fans, but it's harder and harder to get the students involved. And by having those two games on campus against Fresno State, it just injected so much energy into the student body, which hopefully carries over to this year. It kind of reminded me of when we used to play in the Arc, because we used to always play in front of packed houses. And it was a packed house because of the students. The local community has always supported Siena in a great way. But, from what I recall from that run, two big things. A young team figured out how to win, and by playing those games on campus, you kind of reconnected with the students, and hopefully those students come out again this season.
Siena College broadcaster Tom Huerter with us on 1045theteam.com. Also, former Siena player Tom Huerter with us as well. So, Tom, we'll get you out of here. Just a couple more quick questions. We know Coach Passos is very fiery, very intense. After last season's success, what are the expectations for this team this year?
I think that's going to be the hardest thing to kind of temper. I still think you have a very young team in a very good conference. I think from a fan standpoint, we need to just kind of sit back and enjoy the season and enjoy whatever happens, and not necessarily go into each game expecting the team to win. And, sometimes that's what makes it so exciting. Last season, no one expected Siena to win the CBI, and they did. That's what made it even more exciting. So this season, I think the toughest thing for Jimmy is going to be is to get his team to play at that high level, and then outside of his inner circle of his own team, kind of temper expectations and make them more realistic for the fans. And I think, if we go into the season as fans and just kind of appreciate a young team competing and playing hard, then I think it's going to be a great year. And the one thing, Jimmy has done is he's injected life into the program, and the players love playing for him. And it's a fun style to watch. They're going to play up tempo, they're going to defend, and they're going to run. And offensively, they're going to try to get up and down the floor and get the ball to the rim. So it's a fun style of play. And, Jimmy's just done a great job in just one short season. And I think this year should be another great year for the team.
Tom, we'll get you out of here on this. As we talk about managing expectations for this season, looking towards the future, I'm curious if, with this young team, is there a young nucleus here that has the potential to grow into a Ronald Moore, an Edwin Ubelis, Alex Franklin, and these Siena teams that were so successful? Is there something like that building right now on Siena's campus?
Well, I think it's going to be hard to have that with the freshman class, only because they're playing behind some very good sophomores. But I think with the sophomore class of, Marquise Wright, Javion Oganyemi from Troy, Maurice White, Levon Long, and Michael Wolf, I think there's that potential. That those guys are going to play a lot of minutes, and that's what Edwin did. That's what Ronald Moore did. Kenny Hasbrook the year before. Those guys played meaningful minutes as in their freshman season, and then by the time they were seniors, you felt like they were there for 10 years, and they just knew how to play. They knew how to play with each other. They knew how to play within the system, and they knew how to win games. And, last season was such a tremendous experience for those young players, and I think that potential is there. And I think what's also going to be interesting is the insertion of Patrick Cole, who's the transfer from Coppin State, to see how he blends in, because Patrick is kind of a wing. He's not a power forward. He's not a small forward. He's not a two guard. He's just a basketball player. And it'll be interesting because he's got a lot of talent. He can score the ball extremely well, and he's just one of those tough kids. It'll be interesting to see how many minutes he can get and how that affects the other players, because as the season progressed, and it definitely when it winded down with the CBI, you saw a pattern of, riding Marquise Wright, you needed Rob Poole to score for you, and then you had guys like Maurice White coming in off the bench just providing you energy minutes. Well, Patrick Cole should be a good addition to this team as redshirt sophomore. So he's got some playing experience from Coppin State, and he sat out last year.
All right, Tom Huerter, Siena men's basketball broadcaster, with us here on 1045theteam.com, breaking down Siena's schedule, breaking down the Saints as a whole. Tom, thanks for joining us, and we'll be talking to you again many times over the next few months, I'm sure.
All right, thanks, Brady. Look forward to it.